Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. And we will begin our media availabilities here for the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum by talking about Auto Club Speedway and the upcoming Pala Casino 400 weekend, historic weekend, the final weekend on the 2-mile oval in Fontana, California, starting off on February 25th with the Production Alliance Group 300 and practice and qualifying for the Pala Casino 400, and on Sunday, February 26th, the final go-around on that 2-mile oval. Dave, I know you're hard at work over in there at Fontana right now. Talk about all the preparations going into this historic final race weekend on that 2-mile oval.
Yeah, it's a little bittersweet, obviously, with the last race on the 2-mile track, but the team's working super hard. You know, Pala Casino that you mentioned, Fred and his entire team over there at Pala Casino they've really stepped up. Helped us, promote in the race here in Market, and looking forward to working with them. But the 5 wide and handsome, the fast place, and a little bit of roughness will be in full play on February 26th, and I think we're just excited to have the Cup Series back in town, and obviously kicking off the West Coast swing here at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum with the Clash is something that's really second to none, in a marketplace that's this large and so important to our sport as a whole. So looking forward to seeing the drivers go wheel to wheel, bumper to bumper, door to door here, and then open it up and go 5 wide at Auto Club Speedway.
Awesome, and we are also joined by A.J. Allmendinger, who's back in the NASCAR Cup Series full-time this year with Colleague Racing. Also the driver who has experience on that 2-mile oval in multiple disciplines, in Indy cars and also NASCAR. So what are your thoughts for this final go-around on the 2-mile oval?
Well, I can tell you for sure the wall hurts in both cars. So, unfortunately, I've experienced that. But, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's bittersweet. It's a racetrack. I felt like, over my time that I've raced there, it seemed like, as it aged, the racing just got super good there. And I think as drivers, we all love it because it wears the tires out. You're slipping and sliding around. It's multiple groove where you're running on the apron there. And it just puts on great racing. And, I think all of us have thoroughly enjoyed it, especially really feel like the last 10 years, all of a sudden it just kind of flipped where we just put on such great finishes there. And it's one of those racetracks where you understand that something's got to change because the pavement's so old, and then eventually you either repave it and the great racing goes away, or you reconfigure it and try something new. But it's a place that I think if you poll all the drivers, we really love it. And, looking forward. I didn't get to run it there last year in the Cup car. And I ran it on the simulator and realized I probably can't eat lunch before the race because it was trying to move my insides around. It's so bumpy down the back straightaway. But, it's character like that on racetracks that make it really good. So, yeah, hopefully we can have a really strong run there. And at least if I win, could I have, some of the pavement or something, just half the racetrack or something, just load it up in the hauler?
We can make that happen.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Not a problem.
Well, awesome. We're going to open up the floor for questions. If you have a question, raise your hand. Gabriella here will get a wireless microphone to you. We're going to start with Bob Pockrass.
So just to reiterate your question here, if nobody heard it, but the plan is still to make our best efforts towards a half mile. Timeline is still yet to be determined. As we work through it this year, hopefully we'll have a lot of cool announcements and milestones that we need to hit. So it just takes some time here to make sure we get it right and build the most state-of-the-art short track that's ever been built.
Okay. Go next to Kevin.
Hi, Kevin Baxter, LA Times. Dave, when you look at some of the things going on here with all the concerts and things in addition to the race, Chicago talked about they're going to have 2 races but 4 concerts. Is it getting to the point where NASCAR, the racing, is not enough? I mean, you look at your track going to the smaller track, probably accommodate other things as well. Are we at that point now?
Well, I think we've been at that point. We've been at a point where entertainment is our business. It's not just the race. The race is the most important piece. And what these drivers do on track is what the memories are generated and people leave thinking about. So what Julie and her team are doing in Chicago obviously is a blend of both. We've all been doing that to a certain extent, A-list talent, B-list talent, bands that it's an integration of everything, not just the music, but all the things that come with it, the food and different atmospheres that the partners are bringing into our racetrack. So it's important for us to stay diversified and provide entertainment areas for people to have fun on race day all day long. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we live in a day and age now where I feel like we get bored super easy, and you come to events like this, you for all ages, male, female, you have to have entertainment or something to go do. At the end of the day, yeah, the race is probably still the most important thing, and that's why we're all here. But I grew up in the open wheel age. When we were in Champ Car, we were street course racing a lot, and we always said that the race was just kind of almost in a way secondary to the party, and you got to make it an atmosphere, and that's what these Cup races should be. I mean, we go to these racetracks, and I know sometimes it's hard when you go to a place twice in a 3-month or 4-month period, but we got to make all these races entertaining for all ages and gender and everything, because that's what it's all about. And what places like this and what we're doing with Chicago at the street course and all these races, we got to make it fun for people to show up and want to be there and have entertainment throughout the whole weekend. And if you do that, I think you get more people that show up and more people that want to tune in on TV when they're not there. So I love what we're doing. I mean, this kind of new age of NASCAR with entertainment and all that is what we need to kind of keep building the sport.
We're going to go to Jeff, then to Greg, and then to Jordan, and then to Zach.
Hi, Dave. In the LA Times, it was saying that there's a possibility, or at least being speculated, that it might take at least a year, maybe 2 years to get the project done, and there wouldn't be a race there during that time. Is that? I know you said you were still working through the timeline, but is that a possibility that there wouldn't be? It would take so long that wouldn't be done in time.
That's a good question, Jeff. And good to see you, by the way. Unfortunately in 24, even with the most aggressive timelines, we will not race in 24 on the new track. So, what that timeline is beyond that still has yet to be determined. And there's just milestones and things that we need to get through, and not least of which is the design of the racetrack. We're still working on that. There's been a lot of iterations of what we're designing, both on track and off track with the new facility, and it'll be really exciting to get to a point where we can share that, because what we're working on is really exciting. The fact that we raced at a half mile at Martinsville and a half mile at Bristol. It'll be cool to have another half mile, especially out here on the West Coast with so much racing history here. So we're looking forward to it, and looking forward to getting to a point where we can share that information and get a little more excited about it.
Go next to Greg.
Hey, Dave. Greg from Forbes. I'm curious. Obviously, you didn't have a race during the pandemic, and you can't, you didn't have crowds. However, when you look at this event last year, as opposed to ticket sales before we were having this out here, do you think it was a definite bump? And how do you keep this momentum from this event carried over to your event to put more butts in the seats out there?
I appreciate your question. It definitely momentum boost. I mean, the fact that we are in downtown LA, in the number 2 DMA in the country, the number 1 market that NASCAR visits. There's a lot of race fans here. A lot of people forget the racing history is just immense here. The fact that they were racing midgets here at this place in the 40s. The dirt tracks, I think at one point there were more racetracks here per capita than any other place in the world. Obviously, we've grown up a lot, and there's a lot of things to do around here in Southern California, but racing and motorsports is one of them. And I think, from the excitement that our company has and the the energy around what we're looking at doing in the next chapter of what Auto Club Speedway is a testament to the fact that we understand the importance of this market, not only to us as a company, as NASCAR, but also to the teams and the partners that are associated with the teams, the media partners. It's a very important marketplace. So, change is hard sometimes, but I'm confident that this is going to be a change that is exciting for everybody and is going to be a heck of an entertainment venue, for us in the future.
Go to Jordan, then to Zach, and then to Dustin.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. I just want to make sure I have this right. There will not be a race at any point in 24 at Auto Club Speedway?
That's correct, Jordan.
And is there a possibility that could not be a race in 25 as well, depending on the timeline?
It's possible. It just depends on timeline and where things go from that.
And then there is a future for Auto Club Speedway on the NASCAR schedule, correct? It's not going to couldn't be sold or anything like that, or?
No, we're all momentum is headed towards building a half-mile track. So we're looking forward to that next chapter. Yeah.
Go next to Zach.
Zach Sterniolo with NASCAR.com. This one's for AJ, and shifting gears quite a bit here. You're obviously back in the car full-time this season. Where do you set expectations for yourself? I know there's been a lot of talk already kind of placing you as a potential playoff threat. Do you see that as a possibility for you this year? And what's the excitement level coming back to Cup full-time?
I look at our organization, you go through our shop, you still got to remember we're just a second-year Cup team. I look at, if you look at the utmost potential, we can be a threat of making the playoffs and then getting in the playoffs and having strong runs. And, the way the format is, you just got to keep staying in it, right? So, but the Cup racing is the best of the best and tough, some of the toughest in the world. So, I think it comes down to just trying to keep getting better every weekend. And, that's a bit cliche-ish, but I always look at the start of the year is we go to a lot of different racetracks between super speedways and 1.5 miles and 2 miles and short tracks and road courses. Once you get to like 7-8 week of the season, you kind of see at all types of racetracks, okay, this is where we're good, this is where we're not good, and we got to keep working on it. So I don't really try to look at setting expectations. You go with the mindset every weekend to go win the race. If you don't, then you shouldn't be at the racetrack. But there's certain weekends where a 15th place finish is a win, and there's other weekends where you got a shot to win, you go take advantage of it. So, that's a sliding scale and a moving scale as the year goes on. But, with the potential there, we can do some great things. If I didn't think we could, I would never have decided to come back Cup racing. I love driving these cars. I like the unique schedule that NASCAR goes to now. And, that we can go do great things, but we got to take it step by step. So it's not about saying, top 10 or top 8 or top 6 or anything like that. But we can go do great things if we live up to it. But it's early in the year, and we'll see kind of where we lay out after 8th, 9th race, and we'll make a decision from there.
Okay, we're going to wrap here with Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Dave, we've seen some designs, or there have been some designs that have kind of been presented, or images presented of what the short track would be like. So when you talk about you're still working on designs, can you explain what's still being worked on and why it is at this point, please?
Well, there's a lot of pieces to that, and what you have seen are very rudimentary, baseline stuff, and through the process of what we have to work through the county, sometimes that stuff comes out. But there's a lot of things from a fan element that we're working on, whether it be the clubs, the fan interaction type areas, the garage areas, the track itself, trying to figure out what makes the most sense, the way we're building the grandstands. So there's a lot of pieces that factor into the overall experience, and honestly getting input from other people and other parties. We're not doing this in a vacuum and thinking I'm definitely not the expert. There's other experts in the room that have a lot to say about it. So I think we just want to make sure we get it right. I mean, the cool thing is we can model racetracks these days, like you mentioned there with the simulator. So we can kind of figure out how things race and how many grooves there are and what the racing is going to be like. But the fan experience beyond the racetrack is just as important, if not more important, to make sure that they're comfortable being there.
And one last thing is about the track. Obviously, there's a already a short track, high bank track. There's a short track, flat track. So what are you looking at or envisioning? And I'm guessing you're not wanting to repeat something like that, wanting to make it stand out on its own. So what might this track be like? Is it going to have left and right hand corners or something? What are you going to do?
Yeah, a chicane in the backstretch. No, we want it to be different. We're in LA. We're different. I'm a California kid. This is a California kid. We're a little off.
We're different.
We're a little off.
Yeah.
It has to make a statement. And making sure that we have a racetrack that is unique to itself here and different than any of the other tracks that they go to is very important. But having said that, it's equally important, like I just said, to make sure that the fan experience part is unique and really has a mark to its own here for the LA market. Yeah, you're welcome. It's good to see you, Dustin.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time, and I look forward to seeing you both at the end of the month here in Fontana, California. At Auto
Matt,
Club
you're doing a
Speedway.
heck of a job. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Matt Humphrey, everybody.
Does he pay for that? Yeah.
He will later.
Several groups this afternoon, going from 1 to 2, 2:30. We'll go with 15 minutes each group, so we may miss some questions with the hands up. So we'll go right to questions. I apologize in advance if we don't get to your question. We'll get to as many as we can. If you have a question for any of these three gentlemen from Joe Gibbs Racing, please raise your hand and we'll get you a mic. We'll start over here with Jordan.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. This question's for Denny. Denny, 2311 is going into its third full year. What are your expectations for this team? What would constitute a successful year from your perspective on the owner side? And then two, what gains have you seen from this team from year one to where it is now?
As far as expectations, both making the playoffs, I think, is a reasonable goal. Bubba will have to take a little bit of a jump to do that, but I think that certainly the performance he's had at the end of last year kind of showed what his potential is. So I think both making the playoffs, and then if they can get into the round of 12 and keep going, then that's going to be a pretty successful year for us. The difference in year one to now, just more employees, certainly in the growing and building stage, and so just a lot more team chemistry. I think we did have a very small group in year one, year two. We've continued to build on that each year, but really it's just continuing to get better. I mean, I don't know, it's a cliche thing, but I want to continue to see us move up the standings and our drivers win more races. We won 1 in year 1, 2 in year 2, so I want to keep seeing that grow.
Next, we'll go to Dustin. Dustin, want to raise your hand?
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Denny, as a team owner, what is the value of an event like this? Obviously, the rating was strong last year, but also on another side of it, the purse is about $2.1 million, so it's essentially the smallest purse out there. There's a cost involved for the teams to be out here. So what is the value combining that and everything else for you guys as from the team ownership perspective?
The value is the location. I think is the biggest thing. Is that a lot of the team sponsors probably are headquartered somewhere near here, so the value and the activation that comes with that is valuable. It's also valuable to introduce new fans to the sport. So I think that with roughly 40% of the audience that's going to show up this weekend going to be new audience members in our sport, just helps grow the sport in general. So, it's kind of a pretty positive thing from that standpoint.
Next, we'll go to John, Zach, Jeff, and then Jenna.
JohnNewbyHeavy.com. Ty, how does it feel taking on this unique event, and have you leaned on any of your teammates for any advice about this style of track?
Yeah, for sure. It's really cool to be a part of this, and I feel like most of my family kind of grew up in Southern California, and my cousins went to school right down the street. So, pretty cool to be here and kind of experience that, and yeah, definitely been leaning off these guys for advice, and I feel like this will be a good weekend for our Toyotas.
Zach.
Zach Sternilo with NASCAR.com. Denny, for you, as an owner, you had Ty in the car last year. What did you see through his growth as a driver in the Cup Series, and how prepared are you to have him as a teammate heading into the season?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great advantage for him to get some seat time before his rookie season. Some of these tracks he's going to see for the second time. Certainly, he has the notebook. Chris Gale has the notebook from our team that he's going to be able to lean on and that feedback to make his cars better right from the get-go. So from me and my standpoint of view, what I saw out of him is just steady progression of getting better, and it doesn't necessarily have to come in finishes, but just competitiveness. So these guys they're going to be fast. Someone that, it's important to me is to have teammates that are very good and competitive, because that's more information that my team can use. And with the giant jump that Christopher took over the last year or so, it's really helped all of our teams to be better. And so Ty, it will take time, and it's going to take some patience there, but these two guys have got speed, and that's something that I'm certainly going to lean on to try to find out how I can be better myself. So.
And then just to follow up on that, Ty, how did you feel like you improved from that kind of last-minute start at Pocono through the rest of the season?
Yeah, definitely a big jump there for sure, and just getting more time in the car. This car is so different, and more of the times I was in it, I feel like I was learning and getting more used to the car and how it handles and how it is. So I think all the time was a progression and just keep moving forward.
Go to Jeff.
Denny, in December, I'm back here, sorry, you tweeted that your top 5 drivers ever were Earnhardt, Johnson, Pearson, Gordon, Petty. Why Earnhardt P1?
Just generally speaking, I think that he got the most out of the car he had right from the get-go. The team that he drove for, I don't know that was an upfront team. He just took it to the top right from the get-go. So just from the raw skill perspective, I mean, I hate I never got to race against him, but just from what you saw as a fan and now someone who's in the sport, it was just an amazing moves that he made, and you could just see that he was really, he had a really good car through the prime of his career, and he was, Childress is a top-tier team, but he just got more out of it than everyone else.
Jenna?
Denny, a few of us spent some time at TRD the other day. We talked about the changes to the rear clip. One of the things David Wilson says is nobody knows maybe what you sacrificed to address that. Is that a true concern, and where do you feel headed into the season with the changes made to the car?
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to sacrifice something. I don't think anything's for free. When you soften something else takes more load. I mean, the load is what it is, so if something takes away from that, then something else gets it. So I don't think we really know exactly yet. I know through the test at COTA, there were some things shook loose in the back of the car that we didn't necessarily plan for, but again, this car's really still early in its stages, so we're just going to have to learn as we go, honestly. I don't really have the answer of what it is. It's going to, the cause and effect, because there will be some sort of effect.
And Christopher, you made some news on the David Gravel podcast that you're not going to be able to do any extra racing anymore. What's that been like to process for you?
Yeah, so, I feel like I need to, clear the air a little bit, and, my comments made on that definitely did not reflect my situation, my relationship with Joe, or, my standing with the team. Joe himself, the entire Gibbs family has been nothing but, helpful for me and inspiring for me. And Joe has not one time mentioned any sort of dislike for dirt track racing. The only thing was just his, wanting to keep me healthy, whether that was racing or being out on the lake or anything. He just had my best interest in mind, and I did a bad job of portraying that. So, I don't know what the future holds for me dirt track racing, but my comments were not well put.
I think it pretty much means Joe values him for the long term and he needs him around. People like me, it's just like, whatever you want to do, man, it's fine.
We'll go here in the back and then to Holly. Right behind you. Yep.
Denny Dullham, FrontStretch.com. Denny, have you heard anything from Kirk regarding his health, and has he expressed interest in any specific dates that he would really like to participate in? Any events?
Honestly, I haven't asked him. He's been traveling all over the place, and certainly he's here this weekend to help our drivers out. But obviously, we're doing a third car in Daytona simply because we want to be prepared and be competitive if the day comes where he says he wants to race again.
Holly.
Christopher, I just wanted to ask you a little bit. I mean, I would assume that you come into this season with a whole lot of extra confidence after the way you raced last year, getting to the championship 4. Can you just maybe tell us a little bit about, I hate to say how it feels different, but it must in some way, and kind of how your expectations have risen?
Yeah, I mean, last year was just such a learning curve, and I keep harping on the fact that we didn't really have practice in qualifying in 2021. And then in 2022, it really allowed myself and Adam to hone in on what I need in the car to be successful. And I hope that just continues to get better and better. So, I think everyone in the garage area will say that their car this weekend at the Clash is going to be incredibly different than what they had a year ago here. So, I expect myself and Adam, to continue to gel and hopefully have more pace and more results. But I think at the end of the year, our performance on track was matching our results a little bit better, and hopefully we can continue that.
Go back to Jordan for a follow-up.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. This is for anybody who wants to answer. Could this race go from being an exhibition, non-points race, to something that's a points race and has a place on the regular season schedule?
I'll let the veteran answer that one.
I mean, sure. I think NASCAR, whatever deems it's important to them, I'm sure that having a race in this area is going to be very important. With the talk of the 2-mile oval in Fontana, having one more and then maybe taking a year off while it rebuilds. Certainly, I think they're going to be open to options, and maybe this does fall in that slot, and we go somewhere else for the Clash, possibly.
Go to John and then Jeff.
JohnNewbyHeavy.com. Christopher, with Kyle moving on and then Martin kind of taking it year by year, have you had to become more vocal and kind of step into a leadership role?
I mean, I don't think so. I think our Denny with his experience and Martin with his experience, they're going to be the leaders for the time being. But I do feel like I've gotten a little bit more confident in my feedback and ability to provide useful information to the team. Just whenever you're new, I don't think it always takes time to learn what's good and what's bad. And so I do think that I've been able to provide more useful information, but the veterans will, they'll be the leaders until they decide to hang it up.
Jeff?
For Christopher, you've raced under a lot of different formats. Obviously, like the concept of not having a full field for NASCAR and in an LCQ with real consequences is still somewhat new for this sport. Do you like this format, like that they're using at the Clash this weekend? Could there be tweaks that you think would be good to see?
I mean, I'm a big fan of sending people home. Denny being a car owner probably doesn't feel the same way, but the making it competitive and having some sort of risk whenever you go to qualify, I think has some value in the sport. So it would be awesome if we could get 50 to 60 cars in the garage where we're qualifying for the race like we had or they had years ago. But as far as the format here, I'm okay with it. It's something different. I don't know that I'd want to run heat races every week, but I think I think it's a good addition to the Clash.
Go up here in the front row to Luis.
Luis Norris, the podium finish. This question is for Denny. We saw last year that Tyler had a strong run. It has kind of been alluded by Christopher. Will the differences of the cars this time around really will impact the performances? Like the guys that did well last year, it's hard to tell they're going to do better this season?
I wouldn't bank on that simply because some teams were just out in left field because they haven't run this type of car on this small, short type of track before. I mean, I know that we kind of probably leaned on some Martinsville stuff when we came here, but that stuff was terrible here and it was terrible in the first Martinsville, but we fixed Martinsville, so hopefully it fixes here. So I think that you're probably, and like Chris said, it's going to be so much about qualifying and track position as well that, I think your contenders, you're going to probably find out by the end of the night.
Okay, well, we'll wrap with that. And thank you so much, Denny, Ty, and Christopher. Appreciate the time. Good luck tomorrow. Larson, if you have a question for either of them, please raise your hand. We'll get you a mic. We'll start off right with questions. And we'll start with Zach. We'll start with here in the middle with Zach.
Zach Sterniola with NASCAR.com. Really for either one of you guys, just with the backdrop here looking as strong as it did last year, coming back a second year, how important is it for this event to be back a second consecutive year with everything that you guys have learned over the past year with this car?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is just a great location for a race, kind of in the urban parts of the city. And, there's probably not a lot of race fans around here, so it's good to introduce our sport to them and hopefully get some fans out of it. And I thought last year's event was amazing. I thought NASCAR and everybody did a great job pulling it off, and the show aspect of it too was really, really good. So glad to have it back again for a second year. I'm sure, although things went really smooth last year, I'm sure there was a lot of things that NASCAR could learn from and apply to this year. So excited to get on track here in a little bit and see another great show.
A couple in the front here.
Kyle Foster, Napa Sports News. Hey guys, so obviously stage breaks have been eliminated. They're just going to keep the race green at road courses. What's your reaction to that? Kyle, you're a winner at Sonoma. Chase, you've run good there. I'm curious what your reaction are for that race later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that I don't have a problem with that. I feel like, your race was really, the strategy of your race was extremely already pretty much done based on when the stage breaks were. So we'll have to kind of see. I haven't really looked at what it's going to look like, when you have to stop and things. But I know that those stages really dictated a lot of the strategy in the past. So I don't think it'll be bad.
Luis
Torres, the podium finish. The question is for Kyle. Of course, at the end of last year, things turned around after the Charlotte Roval. How important is it going into this season to have that strong start now, build momentum going forward?
Yeah, I think it's always important to start the year off strong. And, there's been years where I've, struggled the first few races, and then you kind of feel like you're digging yourself out of a hole from the very beginning. So, although it's a long season, it's definitely important to get off to a good start and kind of, shape the scope of your season and how you prepare for each race and how you call each race. So, that's definitely the goal, is to win every race. But early in the year, you want to finish well to get off on the right foot.
Anything else for Chase? We'll go to Bob and then Jeff.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Kyle, after Martinsville last year, you were a little critical maybe of Logano's move or Chastain's move there at the end. What did you think of NASCAR's decision to say that won't be allowed going forward?
No, I think it's good. It's cool. It did some good things for our sport. I don't think it would have been good to see happen every week. So, making a call on it is good, and we won't see it anymore. So, it's nice.
Go to Jeff, then Dustin.
Yeah, I'm curious for both of you guys. At least at the Cup level, the concept of sending people home and having guys not make the show for a race like this is still kind of new. But what do you guys think of that? Could that be something that sticks around maybe in other races at some point? Not every week, but for certain occasions.
I think it's a good thing. I don't see where it hurts anything at all. So I'm fine with that, and I feel like like Kyle said, I thought the event last year was good, and ended up kind of all figuring itself out, I guess, in the end, and I feel like most of the time it's going to do that. So yeah, I'm good with it.
Me? Yeah, no, I mean, I come from the land of B mains and stuff, and people, you'd miss the show, and it makes those consolation races really intense. And as we saw last year, I think it adds a storyline. Even though it's not nearly as intense at Daytona, I mean, you see it every year in the duels, and that's really the coolest part about the duels is seeing those guys, you know, race and follow their pit strategy and pit stops, and if they keep up with the draft or lose it, and you know, it makes the Daytona 500 for those teams, and every team really probably mean more and much more special to make it, because you had to earn your way in. So and you know, when you're getting rid of cars, you see your field's big, and that shows that the sport's healthy. So I think it's good, and if we introduce those, if we have big enough car counts we have to send people home every week, I think it's something that's exciting.
Dustin?
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. One for Kyle, one for Chase. First for Kyle. Dave Allen of Auto Club Speedway stated earlier today that they won't race at Auto Club Speedway in 2024, making the conversion to the shorter track. Still trying to figure out the timeline for 2025. You won there last year. I guess kind of what's your thoughts about, you know, that track being converted and also being off the schedule for a year, maybe 2 years before it returns?
Yeah, I talked to him just briefly over there, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a long process for them to reconfigure not only the track, but I'm sure a lot of the facilities. So I think he said it's like 18-month or something project. So pretty intense. And I know with California and all the codes that you have to go through, it's hard to have everything probably stay on schedule. So I don't know. I think I don't know exactly the extent of what they're doing with the track and how big it's going to be and the shape and banking and all that. But and I love the 2-mile track, but I think the more short tracks we can have, you know, the better off our sport's going to be. So neat that they're investing that money to try and grow you know, racing in California, but also help NASCAR.
And for Chase, for so many years, and you've been around long enough now, the debate is how much is the driver, how much is the car? And for so often, you guys would often say it's probably like 80-90% of the car. With this new car, how much more does the driver have control of things? How much more is the driver playing a factor? Are you sensing or getting a feel of having more of an input than when you first came in or early years with that car?
I mean, yeah, I think that that's a really tough debate. I'm not sure you've ever heard me say those exact numbers, but nonetheless, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think everyone has to have something good to drive, no matter how good or bad of a race car driver you are. But you can be, you can be in a really good car and not necessarily be putting yourself into positions to have as much success as you need to be doing too. So I think you still have to have a horse to ride, in my opinion. Not really, no.
We'll go in the back.
Don Hopkins, frontstretch.com. For both of you, with both of you being really successful on road courses in the past, what were your thoughts on the elimination of stage breaks, and how much of a difference is it going to make when you go there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's good. I think I always thought it was odd in a road course that you would, you know, pit early before a stage just so you could flip it, and that's just not like racing to me. So I think, you know, being able to race from start to finish is good. So and I honestly I haven't even followed along with the rules update, so I don't know the exact rule or what. But I think that's been something that teams and drivers have been trying to get NASCAR to do for the last few years. So it's nice that they listened, and I think it's going to be better for the overall race.
Go stay in the back, Michael.
Michael Massey, front stretch. So Christopher Bell is just out here talking about kind of the limit he has on dirt racing this year. You guys both obviously race a lot out of the Cup Series. Kyle, you got something pretty big coming up next year in May. But I just wondered, do you guys have any kind of limit, like for this year, for the racing you can do outside of Cup? And like, how would you react if you were kind of given that strict of a, kind of Cup racing for your safety only kind of limit?
I personally have not heard of a limit on myself at Hendrick Motorsports. That's something I'm very grateful for because I have lived those days at Ganassi when I had, when I first started, I couldn't even race a dirt race, and then I slowly got more, and 15 turned to 20, 20 turned to 25, and it's easy to race 25 times. I mean, I do that in the off season a lot of times. So I'm glad now that I don't have a limit, and 4 or 5 years ago, Hendrick was kind of opposite. Where it seemed like Gibbs guys could go race stuff and Hendrick guys couldn't, and the culture, I guess, kind of changed a little bit, and you were able to race. And I think Hendrick also realized that we have a lot less track time in NASCAR now. We don't get to test as much as the guys did back in the day. We don't. Shoot, in 2020 and 21, we didn't have any practice at all. We just show up and race. So I think they understood that and really opened their eyes to allow their drivers to go stay sharp and race other things. So it's a bummer that Christopher is not allowed to run, because I know it's obviously a huge passion of his, and I believe it makes me a better race car driver, the more often I can race. So I know the same would be for him, and I know there's also risks that go along with it, but I think those risks or the reward outweighs the risk. So, but everybody's deal is different, and I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for Joe, but I would personally love to see Christopher out there. I think it's good for grassroots racing. It's good for NASCAR racing to have more of us be allowed to go compete outside of NASCAR.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that obviously I don't know the inner workings of his operation, so it's hard for me to speak on that much. But I haven't raced as much as him outside of NASCAR, but I enjoy the opportunities that I do get to go do it, and appreciate them letting us do it. And I really think a lot of it is just as long as we're putting our focus on this, which I think we can all agree very easily that is where our focus is, then they're good with it, and they've kind of let us dictate that. And I personally appreciate the freedom to make that decision. I think Kyle does as well. And this is always going to be the priority for each and every one of us, no matter what. So I think as long as that's the case, then I think it's all good.
Anything else for Chase or Kyle? I'll wrap up here in the back with Jeff Gluck.
Who is the GOAT in NASCAR?
I don't know. I think my GOAT would be Jimmy. I mean, you look at, I guess the way I look at it, and I'm probably biased because I got to compete with him, but just the quality of competition and car, this, in his era was, in my opinion, much more difficult. So that's why he would be, my GOAT. And he won 5 in a row. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I would agree, and I was going to mention the 5 in a row. I mean, I know the seven gets talked about a lot, but that 5 in a row thing doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion. I mean, I know the format was different, but makes it a little more possible to do, but still, like, that's a tall order. That's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Chase, Kyle, thank you so much for the time, and good luck tomorrow.